I also saw it a long time ago, like an ice cube, but it was spinning. It was on one of the angles spinning. That was a long time ago, though.
All right, well, welcome to New Heaven. What are we? New Heaven and New Earth Lovers. It's January 17th, 2018, and we were just talking about how we see Metatron's cube, which is where we're going to meet today when we ascend. So we're going to see, hear, and perceive, and in the end, the Lord will bring it all together for us to hit that, always that perfect bullseye. And we're all equal priests, so we all can contribute to the facilitation of this group. So we'll put ourselves in divine right alignment by placing our body under our soul under our spirit, and our spirit under the Holy Spirit with praise. We invite all heavenly hosts to help us. We welcome the angels, the great cloud of witnesses, spiritual beings, the seven spirits of God, the men in white linen. We seal off all other dimensions by the blood of the Lamb. In Revelations 3:20 says, "Here I am, I stand at the door and knock. If anyone hears my voice and opens the door, I will come in and eat with that person, and they will with me," which is our royal invitation to come up here. So we'll first descend into the kingdom of God that is within us to examine ourselves before entering into Christ. So we'll just do that for a minute. So now we'll ascend brightly by going by the Spirit, by the Word, by faith through the cross, and by the blood to be in Christ. And again, we'll focus on the perfect will of the Father. So every voice is important. We're all active participants. It's all about unity. We honor each other. All right. Welcome, Jane. I love your picture, your new picture. No more chocolate.
Yeah,
no more chocolate.
Arcing as a tree.
Yes. So awesome.
Yeah, I love that, Jane.
Yeah, it is nice.
So does everybody see themselves in Metatron's cube or something that looks like it could be?
I actually saw a spinning cube, and I just saw us all just sort of step into it.
Spinning by like two pyramids, one on top of another, inside one another, spinning. The general angular movement of clockwise and counterclockwise at the same time together. It's pretty
Yeah, that's what I
fascinating.
saw. I saw the same thing.
Like a Rubik's Cube.
But it's like two pyramids opposite. So the one was going counterclockwise and the other one was going clockwise.
I can hear a frequency coming off of that as one's going clockwise, the other counter, and living letters flowing within the frequency as it's being sent out.
I'm imagining like two dreidels, like one inside one another, one being spun one way, one being spun the other. And I'm pretty sure those have letters on them too. Intergalactic transdimensional dreidels, not just regular ones.
I love it.
Fact that one pyramid is spinning one way and one is spinning another, does that denote balance?
It's a very good question.
I think an impression I have that is probably incomplete, but is that the two directions both way is it's where the now is, it's the past and the future. So yeah, a balance for sure.
Did we say that these were one was inside the other?
Uh-huh.
Oh.
And the other piece, I don't necessarily see it as balance as much as the stuff that needs to be let go of goes one way and the stuff we need to grab on is the other way. So
Yes, yes. I was going to say the same. I see it as like, can you imagine like two spools of cotton and somehow they're linked. So when you wind up one and put more cotton on one spool, it pulls the cotton off the other spool. So it's a tethering to the fullest blueprint and an untethering to anything less than that, which you could argue gives balance, but I would say it's more than balance, it's tethering.
Divine alignment.
Yes, I mean, that's, yeah.
The idea of the balance, I think it was like electrons and protons. They give off positive and negative to each other. They feed back and forth, and it completes the circuit.
Oh, I see what you're saying. Yes, yes, in that sense, balance. Yes, because that's what the fullest blueprint is anyway. It's complete balance and unity and everything in harmony. So yes.
And that's what I saw as well, was an untethering and tethering at the same time. You have to untether on things to be able to tether to other things.
Oh, that's good. Yes, yes.
Yeah.
That's like the function of a centrifuge.
Oh, yes.
Yes. Yeah.
A centrifuge separates by mass, but we only have a certain amount of sticky real estate. So if you want to grab onto something else, you have to give up the real estate that used to be held by something. And the other piece is I feel like because it's at this point constantly unraveling and being revealed, we're kind of always like getting a little bit more so we can untether with the old stuff because it only became old 5 seconds ago. And
Yeah.
No kidding.
Ever changing.
The two
If
pyramids, is this,
Oh, go on, Bill.
I just had a question. The two pyramids, this is us corporately as well as individually? This is our functioning, right?
On pyramids, you think of pyramids as having 3 sides, but I actually had to get a real one to look at it. But a base of a pyramid has 4 sides that converge to a singular point.
Mm.
Mm-hmm.
well, that's for one that's based on a square.
But I see the one based on the square and the points coming together as we coming together, reaching the top and becoming one. The base is 4, right? But it comes up and merges into one, a point.
Yes.
So that's I see it like that too, like the way Courtney is saying.
Well, my what I see with Metatron's cube is that it's like wherever we've been, we create a deposit in those certain realms, and the more we explore and discover and abide, not just visit, we fill more of Metatron's cube. So it's like we have, I see it as sort of forms of like strings just coming off us that leave trails, and the trails gradually encompass more and more of Metatron's cube. So it's like eventually we grow and we expand into the fullness of Metatron's cube, which is the fullness of the whole blueprint. And so back to your question, Bill, I get this sense now that it's what we're experiencing is the level that we have encountered or being willing to engage, opening up ourselves to engage it.
Okay, that's good, and I thank you for that. I guess that's good. What's catching my attention is pyramids, and I'm wondering if this is relating to New Jerusalem in some way, to the heavenly cities, because of the geometric shape.
This may be related, it may not, but it keeps coming to me. What I'm seeing is what I believe to be Ezekiel's wheel. And part of it is turning one way, and the other part is turned the other way. So that's what I was seeing.
Well, if it's Ezekiel's wheel, we're seeing it and it's seeing us at the same time.
Yes, I'm wondering if there's some kind of relation between Metatron's cube rotating this way and what Ezekiel saw. Because the image that I'm seeing of it is it's two circles. One is inside the other, and it's it's rotated similar to the Metatron's cube.
Each side of the pyramid has a face. I'm actually sitting here looking at a solid pyramid as we speak, looking at its properties.
My understanding was that Ezekiel's wheels within wheels was a transportation, but also a power source. That's something I've heard. That's not direct personal revelation.
Before we met in Metatron's cube, I saw the gates looking at the diagram, and each gate was a level, and they began spinning and locking, and then I got the idea of the glory coming in like a hydroelectric power was the feeling. And that would go to the power source you were just speaking of.
As we're talking here, I'm finding myself learning how to function here, because up until this point, I had been either tethering or untethering clockwise or counterclockwise, and just recently I had a sense I could do both at the same time, but this is the first time I've actually tried it. I'm trying to get them both functioning in myself as I have been doing for the one or the other alone, now trying to get them both going. There's a matching up to what we're seeing here in my experience and my functioning. So I'm finding myself trying to get them both working simultaneously. And maybe you folks are having the same experience. I don't know. There it is.
I'm seeing, like the clock, when it's got, I don't know what the in parts of the clock are, cogs. And they fit together and one goes clockwise, one goes anti-clockwise. When you were saying about the two going together, that's what I was seeing.
Gears.
Oh, okay, matching.
Gears. Is it gears? Is that what you call them?
Yeah,
Together. Mm-hmm. And with Ezekiel's will, I heard, I think, that when you look down on it, it's actually a sphere.
Yeah, that's also true. And the tethering, untethering, clockwise, anti-clockwise is kind of like breathing. But if you think about when you wind a clock, even though there are gears going both directions, you only wind it one way. And I kind of feel like the glory only has to spin it one way, or we only breathe it. And it's like the whole action is a continuous flow.
Oh, so once you've got one side going, the other side's automatically going the same in.
Yeah, so I don't think you have to consciously work at untethering. You consciously work at what is the positive, the tethering, and the untethering happens.
Yeah, it's you don't have real estate to tether, so it's kind of like naturally you're like, you want to do this, so like the old Velcro gets unstuck and the new one gets stuck.
And really, every time you govern it, that's what you're doing. You're tethering to the fullest heavenly blueprint. But I see what's really significant here is this power source coming in. I see we need to ask more about what that means in terms of our experience of Metatron's cube, I can see some insight there, but I think it would be good if all of us ask what relevance that has.
So this is something I got a little bit earlier, and its application. So I was kind of going over the different gateways of people, and it's specifically one that is applicable here. If we allow the spirit like flow through our faith to go through the soul gateway of reason, then glory can operate. All right. So there's a faith that God can make energy just by having glory go through this apparatus, this mechanism. But it takes a choice on our part to, make that really clean and effective, both for ourselves and, more importantly, the ecclesia.
I just keep hearing light and water.
I got light and lightning.
And electricity.
Yep.
I got the word generator.
I'm getting the sense that we're being asked to expand the presence of the ecclesia in Metatron's cube, and so to grow it outwards, if you sort of mean, so that it embraces more of the realms of heaven. Because I see the ecclesia actually is only as a corporate body now. If you average out everything, it's only accessing a small part instead of the fullness. So it's almost like a spreading, and I think the light is representative of understanding of the fullest concept of us being light. And I think that's what happens as you expand more dimensions in Metatron's cube. You grow in that understanding.
Jane, I had a sense of powering up too.
Yes, I mean that's all the same sort of principle, really. Yeah, powering up the ecclesia.
I kind of feel like it's power washing the reason with some awesome faith.
Yes, because you must combine faith with any of this. If you rely totally on reason, you get stuck after a point because it gets so freaky. It's like, how can we possibly, accept this? But with faith, your spirit just flies and flows. you allow it to happen.
Well, 2 days ago, I took Alana into the wine room in New Jerusalem, and we drank wine from Smith Wigglesworth and Abraham, which of course is all faith.
Do tell, do tell.
Oh, we just got that concept about, Hebrews 11, and we saw their books on the table. And, we knew that it was like we needed to engage with them and engage in the gift of faith, their faith, everything concerning faith, to be able to continue on in the journey, that it will require great faith for what, we had to do to walk out our destiny scrolls, for the ecclesia and beyond. So just engaging that faith, that great faith.
Kind of seeing like pipe. Would faith be the conduit? We've been laying pipe in some of our ascensions over the past week, tunnels, I guess, and we've been doing flushing and clearing away. And when we were earlier, I was getting the idea of like flip the switch, turn the power on. Like if you were moving into a new building, new construction, you have to turn on the power.
And I see measuring rods being given to us, measuring rods.
And I'm also still sensing the water along with that, with the flow, that somehow even with Metatron's cube and being on the super bench of one and being one, we're still entangled with the tree. And that drawing from the river, from the flow, the combination of both, of all of that.
Water and light both or crystals and water are both prismatic, meaning that they reflect all the colors, and they have actually similar qualities.
Patience, when you mentioned about the measuring rod, I've been seeing sort of from the beginning when I looked into and saw myself in Metatron's cube, design. And I have been meditating on this to see if this is all about the perfect design of everything. And you mentioned measuring rod. I was wondering if that was a connection.
Yes, I agree, Michelle. I think it is about the fullest design. And I think what happens is in a lot of our engagements, we are only engaging one aspect or one level of intimacy, or and we separate out the Godhead, we separate out the blueprint into elements as we engage. And what I see Metatron's cube is about combining all those facets such that you suddenly see the whole picture. Well, you don't suddenly, you evolve into seeing that picture that you can embrace more as a full concept, not as the separate parts. But what was really fascinating, I think is relevant to this, back to the light, is that this few days ago I saw a post that the scientists had shown that on the point of conception of a human being, that a flash of light is emitted at that point. I thought that was just amazing revelation to confirm that we are light. If anyone's struggling, we are a light being that is a confirmation scientifically. But also, what I'm seeing is back to this growing the concept of the ecclesia into Metatron's cube. I'm seeing something to do with gates. It's the amount of people's gates that they're willing to open, which allows the fullness of this Metatron's cube to reside in them. So I see there's an issue around gates. So it's almost like I see like these gates on the edge of Metatron's cube. I've never seen that before. And it's as if like I can just sort of see them needing to be opened.
I kind of see that as a proportion to like what age they're willing to, folks are willing to work out of. Because I've heard folks who are getting some serious revelation, but it's like a little thumbnail or even tinier of the stuff that we're experiencing, but through a lens. And going up in the ages basically allows you to see it from a couple of different spots. Eventually, everything.
Yeah.
Last week, I was looking at the gate diagram. I guess that's what I was thinking about when we first ascended. When you look at it, from one perspective, it has a V shape. The outer gates leading down to a point to the glory. And then another time you can look at it, it will be like an inverse, which and then they had begun to spin another time. But if you take those and put them on top of each other, you have a pyramid that's inverted on top of each other. I don't know if that makes any sense. I'm probably not describing it very well.
Oh, can you say that again?
Oh, I'm sorry. The diagram that was shared about the gates and has the center, your first love gate. When you look at it, at one time it felt like it drew me down to a point, like a V shape. And then another time it was like the eye gate, the ear gate, were the bottom of a mountain, and then the glory of God was at the top of the mountain. And they inverted on top of each other.
Almost kind of like the shape of an hourglass.
Yes, and the widest part being that they met up. Like, imagine if two funnels, one pointing up and one pointing down, were put on top of one another. That's what I drew out. I drew it as a funnel.
And see, I see them as, which I don't think is inconsistent with what you're saying, but like concentric circles expanding like a frequency.
Yes.
And yeah.
Well, that's exactly specifically what I was referring to, going from really its first love starting, but then through faith, through reason.
Yes.
I mean, technically, I understand the Metatron's cube is there's 13 concentric circles that overlap, which represents the 13 tribes. And I see that as the full, I really do resonate with that description, because I can see the fullness of when all the tribes come together as one united body and overlap and then come into complete agreement of the heavenly blueprint. That is when the ecclesia will fully what's the word, grow into Metatron's cube fully. And I'm wondering if the kind of the prisms are just a smaller element within the fullness of Metatron's cube. So it might be representative of what of the space that the ecclesia is currently occupying in the heavenly realms.
Well, Jane, you know the elevator shaft, or whatever terminology we give to that,
Yeah.
where we go places. I've always felt that that's all part of Metatron's cube, because I've always seen on the, even if it's a circular tube that I feel sometimes that we're in, I always see like coordinates and I don't know what you call it, coding and those sorts of things on the walls.
Yes, look, I think everything's in Metatron's cube. The question is, I'm not sure on, is everything in eternity and infinity in Metatron's cube, or is Metatron's cube only created realms? So I'm not sure on the extent of that, because Metatron was a chief angel that was created after. So that's what makes me sense that it might be only a certain number of realms and dimensions and not everything. But I'm not sure about that. That's something we have to really ask.
If Metatron's cube contains the design of all things, for example, take like a piece of grass, or your body, or anything, a snowflake.
Yeah.
If Metatron's cube contains the design of all that, doesn't it also contain then the nature of the designer?
Well, yes. If that's true, if it is the fullest design, yes, it would. I don't know why I've just got this thing about, every time I think about it, I think of Metatron as a created angel. And so does it encompass before that?
Well, Metatron and Metatron's cube are different things, are they not? So, God could give a finite angel governance or the holding of something beyond his own nature.
I think part of the answer to the question might be in this tethering and untethering experience we started out with, because that previously has been something we've been experiencing in infinity and eternity, correct? That tethering counterclockwise.
Even in some places, we don't even know where it is, but it's real close.
Yeah, so it's definitely including infinity and eternity, because that's where that function is included. We've seen now that the two go together.
If Metatron's cube contains the creator, the Father's design of everything, those designs are perfect. There's no need for tethering there, because it's not corrupt in the sense of it is the expression of the true design. In the earth, we see corruption of it, but in Metatron's cube, you see the perfect design of it. Am I not right?
Like the cell and compared to a body.
I think what I'm seeing is that it's so complex to explain. It's both things again. There is the fullest blueprint that is ultimate perfection, but then there is a timeline that isn't, and it's like we're mapping the corrupt timeline over the perfect timeline to merge the two together. So there is an element where sometimes when we are just encountering the fullest blueprint, but then there is a time when we're governing and ruling where we're doing this overlapping. So it's like we're both, which causes confusion, because most of the time we want to just think along one linear function, but it's like it can be multifunctional and different.
And Jane,
sorry, just let me finish this because it's so complex to explain. I've just had revelation, that it's, how do I describe it? There is, when Metatron was created, the angel, there was a version of Metatron's cube in that time zone, in that time frame. But what we're trying to do here is beyond the period in which Metatron was created and onwards from there, because we're going back to the fullest blueprint in eternity and creating even a greater blueprint in infinity. So this, I can actually see why Metatron's cube now there can be this second version of it, so to speak, that is the fullest design. So I think this is actually the same principle as what I saw before, as the mandate was actually growing the Metatron's, our experience of the Ecclesia's experience of the Metatron through growing it outwards. So it's as if there's so many different parts we can fulfill of it, but we're now going back to the fullest, embracing eternity, infinity, and new earth, which is the fullest design. Yeah.
So is it like in Genesis when God made Adam and Eve and created a garden for them in Eden, and he placed them there and asked them to expand Eden to cover the earth? Is that what we're supposed to do in Metatron's cube, to cover a bigger portion of, I don't know what to say, whether the earth or expand it? With the same mandate as Genesis 1:28?
Except we're not going back to the garden, we're going beyond the garden.
Okay. But well, the same concept.
But the same, principle, yeah.
The revealing of the manifest sons through their job, which is the redemption of all things, including what's been created, what hasn't been created, and what's going to be created. And so that's thinking about time, but also thinking about it in terms of space, and then the things which are outside of time and outside of space.
The fullness of everything that fills everything in all ways, and not quite Ephesians chapter 3.
Yeah, exactly.
So procreation versus regeneration. Regeneration trying to redeem something, and procreating making something new.
Yes.
Not redeeming an old mountain.
Yes.
Yes. Yeah. We're like, don't worry with that. We got a better one.
Toss that up in a little ball of paper, wrap it up, and then throw it out and start with this. Here's the new plan.
Like, you can think about it like the replicators in Star Trek. They actually conserve matter, but it's completely new stuff.
The picture I was getting here of much of this is the in Christ positionally, as opposed to where you are in the process of growing up into the fullness of that position. There's always that full blueprint of who Jesus is and who we're going to be, and there's always here's how far along the way we are to that place of growing into that fullness, which is three-dimensional, well, multi-dimensional.
Yeah.
when we're born, we have cells that have the ability to grow into maturity, but it doesn't mean they'll actually get there. So it's that potential within
Yep.
each cell.
Yes.
Yes. Yes.
The potential is the blueprint.
So is anyone
ever changing? Is it alive and can it change?
Mm-hmm. Well,
well?
we saw in this group encounter a few weeks back about the cycle of life. So in that sense, yes, it's ever changing because the suns are always creating new realms, and so that's causing an ever expanding universe. Never be static.
What is it? The authority and expansion of the government of the manifest suns is ever increasing and will not end.
Yeah, that's right. The government will never end.
Now, is it also true, though, that all of this that we just discussed, it all boils down to the simple function of tethering will cause this whole thing to be filled up into its fullness?
Well, it could be, but I'm back to these gates. What are you feeling about these gates? Is there any resonance around opening more gates for the ecclesia?
Yes.
Yeah. Pressure wash with glory. You know?
Push them open.
Yes, I hear enlarge your tent.
What I'm saying though is
sorry.
I'm sorry, there's a lot of this trying to understand, which is Greek, and it all boils down to what do you have to do to drive this thing?
That's the more important question, really.
Yeah.
And that's open the gates and tether and the other things he's showing us.
Well, for the body, recently I heard the same thing about enlarging the tent pegs. But then as I was thinking about that, then the next thought was take out the tent pegs, remove them completely.
Yeah. I think we heard that last week.
Yeah. Did I say that last week? Sorry.
Maybe, but there's something last week we did which is relating to this, and I know it in my spirit, but I don't remember it in my brain yet.
When you were, Elliot, when you were referencing faith and the gates, what was coming to mind is how faith is the mustard seed, and this goes back to the ascension we had about the removing the tent pegs completely. When faith as a mustard seed is the tiniest little thing, but it greatly expands. It was like a dandelion that went poof, and that faith increasing and filling the void. Much like we're talking about creating fractally and cells procreating and replicating themselves, it's that great expansion of faith. And I'm seeing that almost like the flush of where we've been flushing, as well. But that's the pressure that clears the pipes.
I'm seeing it as Metatron's cube is ever expanding because we're expanding. So we're not contained in anything and nothing's contained within us. So Metatron's cube cannot contain us. It's ever growing as we expand it because we're able to create it bigger and bigger. And I see it, I perceive it as more of the ecclesia that comes into that. It's ever growing. It goes back to not just expanding the tent pegs, but to completely take them out. So because we are, like I said, we're not contained into anything, and everything in us is not contained as well. And I just see that these gates, or some people call them the mirrors or whatever, and I think Donna put on here earlier about the kind of in a funny house where it's the mirrors, the reflection goes on and on and on. And I've seen it like that, but it's us, our eyes being open to see, and it's multifaceted. There's not just a few gates, but there's more gates and more gates and more gates. And Lee and I, we did an ascension the other day, and we saw all of these doors, and we were able to line them up so that they just, like almost like a domino effect, but it was a door after a door after a door after a door, just all lined up. And I just see this, like we're standing inside of this multifaceted diamond, or whatever we want to interpret it as. We can expand it, but we can see through all of these. There's more and more and more gates, and it's up to us as the sons to open them, and for that flow for more to come in and to expand this cube, I guess.
All right, let's line them up. Line them up.
That, Alana, what you said about aligning the gates, that's exactly what I was trying to say earlier. Thank you for saying that. In every, as each gate moves, it creates a different combination or a different coordinate, so to speak.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and I can even hear it almost like a tumbler in a lock, and it's almost like when you are started, we can line up the doors, and especially since whoever said, Elliot or whoever said, it's like, okay, you see this pyramid inside of a pyramid, or whatever we want to call that inside, and it's almost like lining the one that's on the inside with the outside, because one is like going clockwise, one counter, and it's almost like this combination of and isn't Metatron, he's the keeper, not only the timekeeper, but he's the key keeper. So it's almost like it's a combination of lining these two diagrams, whatever these things are, these pyramids, and lining them up so that the gates line up. And it's almost like that tumbler, I can hear it, and it just goes boom, 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 and it starts opening up all these gates. When they're not lined up, if you opened up one, it's almost, on the other side, there's not another gate for it to go through. Does that make sense?
Oh, I think what you've said is absolutely awesome. Everything you've said, I think, is really, really profound. I can see it. Do you mean a bit like, have you ever seen a program called Stargate?
I was getting ready to say this is the plot to the Stargate movie, and they actually they meet inside of a pyramid and come out of a pyramid. I'm sitting here laughing at yes.
Oh, do they?
No, I've never seen that movie. I've seen because it was a sitcom or whatever, and I know they always had to do coordinates to be able to go to another dimension or whatever. But no, I've never seen the movie where they were in a pyramid and go to a pyramid.
This is the plot of the movie, exactly. Yes.
That ascension that when we saw the doors, remember, and we were saying about aligning all the doors from New Earth to Old Earth.
Yeah.
That was just us putting out our faith there, folks. I can remember Lisa. Remember Lisa said she saw like, what do you call that lock? Like when you have a lock on something with all digits. And you've got to line up, and all the digits just go till they get to the right place, and then they all unlock. Like not like safe cracking. I want to think of a positive.
It's a legitimate opening of a door because we have the appropriate key.
Yeah. And she saw all these numbers. It's all these numbers, and they were just like, say there was a row of 20 numbers on this lock, and they were all going in different sort of whatever, spinning around to get each one into the right alignment, and then it would unlock the whole lot.
I have a question here. What triggered me with this beautiful description Alana and Courtney were giving us about the moving the gates and lining them up and that opening and releasing, that really triggered me with some other teaching I've heard about the circle of the deep, and which I think connects to the star houses and stuff like that too. Does anybody have a sense of synchronicity with that as well? Is this maybe another picture, another dimension
Talk
of
it.
that too.
Tell us. Don't stop now.
I don't have a huge grip on it. It was the sort of stuff that I kind of went, wow, that's over my head. But I know Mike Parsons, the Lord took him through a year of learning how to align the circle of the deep, which was like beyond the chancellor's houses. I get so mixed up with my heavenly geography. But it was in order to, exactly this, in order to open gateways that if they weren't aligned, you couldn't open, you know, things just were blocked, couldn't come through. But if you aligned them in the way they needed to be, then there was flow and things could be released. So that's why it sounded like the same kind of idea.
Well, we've done that a couple of times, putting the two, was it timelines? Or anyway, there was a beginning and an end we put together. We also lined up those doors, and each where there were like the 7 colors, and there are probably some other examples. So we are already participating in this.
Yeah, it sounds like it.
You know what I'm seeing? You know, those digits again on the lock to unopen everything. That, you know, we each are a gate and we each are a digit on those locks.
Wow.
Like a governmental act having to do with our digits?
No idea.
All right, you're 3, you're 1, you're 7, you.
I just keep sensing, you know, like how it said that when we get to that tipping point, and then it's going to be the big boom. And even like, you know, I'm not saying whoever, you know, we're just one of the combinations. When we come together, we form that big lock, and we're spinning around and aligning, and at some point there's just going to be the right combination.
As you do a combination lock, you go to the left one time, then you go counterclockwise, then you go to the left. Anyway, you go clockwise, counterclockwise in balance as you are opening a combination lock.
Don't want to take us off track.
No, I can see what you're saying, Lee, that I can see us, the governmental act is us aligning, getting in a line as gates. We come together in unity to form the right combination. We don't have to intellectually understand what that combination is.
Yeah.
But we just stand in that alignment and ask that we stand in the right alignment of the right combination. And then I'm seeing it's like the Stargate thing. The Stargate is basically like a big kind of cogwheel thing, and it's got all these gates in, and you just rotate it like a touch, and everything aligns.
So that's the cogs I saw. They'll just go together, like, you know, and like the same, the combination.
Yeah.
They were spinning, and you didn't all spin together at the same time in the same way either. That's the thing, you know, but not that really mattered. It's just they would spin till they all got into that synergized place. Is that the word?
Yeah.
Yeah. And it just unlocked.
And what might be happening is, I'm getting a vague sense that this change of the gates and the locks, it might be clicking more of the circle of the deep into alignment. I have a feeling the circle of the deep is something to do with the firmament as well, and the boundary between eternity and the created realms.
Yeah. We've been to that spot a couple of times. It's right
Oh,
there at the border between what and is.
ah. Yeah, so is that what we technically call the firmament?
I don't know, but it seems like that would be on my list of 5 to choose. You know.
Yeah, because it's in scripture, the firmament in Genesis, and I've always seen that's what the firmament is. It's kind of like an invisible line on the edge of the universe, and I think it's like an ice sort of. I think actually they've even shown scientifically there is this sort of, we're all contained in this womb of ice and water, and but yeah, I just think that yeah, we've got to align ourselves. Is there any kind of agreement on that, or anything else?
And the diagram of the gates, and I may be off with this, but there's 3 levels. There's spirit, soul, and body, correct? And then a combination lock will go, it's 3 numbers to a combination lock, a traditional one. You would go to the right, which I guess would be clockwise. And then the second gate or number, you would go counterclockwise. And the third, you would go clockwise. If we're tying this to a sort of opening a gate, and similar to Stargate, there were different levels and different rings, and one would go one direction and one would go to another until they aligned.
Ah, yes, that's it. Yeah.
Which I think is
that's
what
what I was
Bill was
saying.
feeling earlier on within himself. Is that right, Bill? You were sensing the different tethering and untethering all at the same time?
Yeah, I was doing the one side and the other side, and then the one side and the other side.
And that would bring in complete unity, wouldn't it? Once we individually are, completely in sync, and then we all come together and are completely in sync.
I get where you're going. So if the analogy is like a key, you can't even engage it until all the tumblers are in the right spots. And so once the flow comes through, you can't misalign it because it's got like a rod going through it. It's a forceful flow.
I think I'm sensing that the one side and the other side and the other and back and forth is actually breathing in, breathing out.
Yeah, I got that earlier as well. Exactly the action.
One is tethering, one's untethering, breathing in, breathing out.
Breathing out is releasing, because when you breathe in oxygen, then you hold it, and then you breathe out, that's releasing, and that part of untethering.
Yeah, I think that is. It's interesting.
Well, excuse me, in the reflection of the mirror that I was seeing, it kept going on, and I just sensed that we were already in the spot we needed to be. We've already gone through a lot of the tethering and untethering, and I saw that we were already lined up.
Time to turn the key and open the gates.
I just saw that before you said that, Bill. I saw the old-fashioned key go in and turn.
It's clockwise. It's tethering.
Yeah, that's exactly what I saw.
Yeah. And I sense the gates just popping open and up as that key turns. They're permanently up after that. Permanently open. So we all put our hands on the key and turn it to the right on a count.
So.
This might even be a two-handed key. So grab that key. We're going to turn it to clockwise we'll do 1, 2, 3 turn. Is that okay with everybody?
Let's do it.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay, so 1, 2, 3, turn clockwise.
Turn.
Yeah. Just like the garage door opening. And now it's in the open position. It's like a chain reaction.
Yeah, I see stars aligning.
Like dominoes falling in a chain, but it's actually gates opening down the line.
Yeah, I see that too, Bill. And almost like a puff of air or something as they open, a poof, poof.
Yeah, that's what I saw. I saw like the Big Bang phenomena. And interestingly, that was one of the things that Bill and I saw together as one of the milestones for this year. There'd be a lot of like Big Bang type explosions spiritually. Oh, well, whether it's physically, I don't know.
I think this is going to affect a lot of things, even our physical bodies.
Yes.
I saw it in all directions. How do I say? If like I posted once before about that 3D looking diamond snowflake. Like they were saying before, you know, like so many like a solid thing, but it had, you know, peaks. Oh, Lord help me. Because there's so many different dimensions of triangles. We'll just say triangles, you know, all in different directions coming out and all different, like a ball, like a sphere, but it's not a sphere, it's peaks.
Yeah.
If that makes sense, but it's a sphere. Like and I saw that this key was like in the center of it. And from the center in every imaginable direction, degrees of direction, it caused a pathway.
You know, Lee, I'm wondering if what you've seen with that snowflake, diamond-shaped snowflake, is actually a representation of Metatron's cube.
Yes, it is. I got that right in the beginning when people were talking. It put the, I got that revelation. Oh, that's what that is. Thank you to Courtney and the others who put all those pieces together. But I saw that then, like we were in the center of it, and just as soon as that key went in, I just saw it shot like these, like the snowflake paths we saw when we were just looking at discovering new earth that time. Again, I saw just these, it formed, they were doorways, obviously, from that center in every imaginable direction a round little ball could go. You know, like you had a tiny, tiny, tiny little sphere. You know, I don't know how many dimensions that would have. And it shot out of that. So into all different imaginable directions or pathways. That we could then go into to just keep discovering and expanding.
That's great. I find that an easier concept to grasp than the diagrams of Metatron's cube. That's really good.
It makes me think of, your description, Lee, makes me think of a Moravian star. Anybody, if you do a quick Google image search of that, that sounds like, you know, obviously the real one is multidimensional, but for something that we can wrap our heads around a little bit, that might be a helpful image.
Yeah. I want to point out the irony here. If that's a cube, just, okay. If Metatron's cube is a cube, then, you know, what's something else? Anyway.
What's a cube that exists in multiple dimensions, though?
Well, you get what I'm saying.
Indeed.
Yeah, about shape. Okay, I just Googled what cube actually means because we have an idea of what it represents as shape. But it says a cube is a symmetrical, three-dimensional shape. It can either be solid or hollow, contained by 6 equal squares.
Well, I don't know why they call it a cube when it's not a cube. But maybe it's something to do with the fact that there's cubes all over the scriptures, and there's some significance of just things within things within things, and
I don't know why, but I see it like almost like a triangle that, back to the pyramid, I guess, that it falls over and then it leaves a imprint of one, and then it picks itself up and folds over again, always expanding with its flat edges touching.
I have a sense we're going to see a lot of folks moving up in ages after this.
Oh yeah, oh yeah, and just for everybody's what a suggestion that I think is pretty relevant is if you even have the slightest inclination, just bring them up as the superbench one.
So where does Metatron's cube go to? It's still a question. Infinity and beyond?
You're wondering where the top floor is?
I think we've got to stop thinking about top floors. So
Well,
just ever expanding dimensions.
Right. It's basically everything that we haven't thought of or ever seen, but it's still there. You just haven't been there yet.
This is the glass ceiling.
Well, it's an abstraction. It's just one way of grouping stuff, okay? Like, don't worry about the fact that it can be moved, but it's just a concept that we get a pretty good idea of where it is, but that's because we haven't thought about it that much more.
Okay, this is Algonda. I've been struggling to get unmuted here. Two things. One, pyramid and the other pyramid, as I was seeing that, it was like it forms the Star of David. I don't know if you know the concept.
Yes.
With the one upside down and that. But I just wanted, what came to my mind now was describing all of this and then the 6 sides and all that. I had a dream, and in this dream, it was like, like a honeycomb, the 6 sides, and that the way they were all connected and just kept spreading. But in my dream, it was like everything around me was covered like by this honeycomb. And every little area, little cube part of it, I don't even know how to describe it, had appointed angels that were in there with a person and the blueprint. And it was like they were all interlinked and entwined and that, but it formed this honeycomb that just went on never ending. And it was so busy, so much activity and everything. It was like alive and growing the whole time. It was just like multiplying. Hello?
Yeah, in the natural, if you look at sheets of graphene or graphite or the structure of diamond, those are all the same. Those are 6-membered rings that link with one another, and it's a blueprint that's used in a lot of places, and particularly with carbon atoms, at least here on Earth.
Yeah, and sense that what we're involved with is somehow linked to something like that.
I've been seeing the periodic table lately and think getting things reduced to lowest terms. Mm-hmm. And what you described with the multiplication and all that really resonates.
So I had a weird experience today in intimacy where I was in light with Papa, and these like concentric circles of frequency coming out of him, and it's at a rate, like the frequency is like a whum, whum, whum. And I've been engaging with him that way almost for a week. And it wasn't today, it was yesterday. And then it felt like my body, which had been like cuddled up like a child with him, and this wave going through me as it passed through me and everything else and kept going. It was like my body separated out from him and then kind of went flying along inside this frequency wave, this concentric circle. And then I went into pieces like as light. It was like I dissolved into light, but it was these particles that were tiny, 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 tiny little cubes, clear cubes. And every time the whum came, there was like a light in each cube that flared. And it was this whum, whum. And those were cubes too. So I don't know how that relates, but it kind of seemed to. Reducing to our primary state.
Well, we've had that on Ascensions before, when we were morphing. And I could see that was describing to me morphing, being able to morph.
And the fact that we respond to its frequency.
So you guys actually, you went into like the pieces and then reformed into a different form? Is that what you guys did?
Yes.
Cool.
I called it particles of perfection. That's how I saw it. coming
Okay.
out of us.
I'm still just in pieces, and that's okay with me for now, but that's awesome.
But Quinn, that's what I see when I'm in everlasting, and to allow all the qualities of what's in everlasting to flow through me, I see myself as this combination of just these particles, but they're just sort of in a body shape, but they're just particles of light, and that allows all those qualities to flow through me as a gate in the realm of everlasting. But also, I've just had a bit of revelation, Courtney, around your fractions, because I didn't understand that when you first shared it, and now I see the concept of things being brought back to the lowest common denominator. I see that as that's what happens as you progress in authority. With the blueprints, the authority grows, but the blueprints get simpler and simpler, and they get defined as key words, like love, unity, joy, peace, identity. I've even saw a new one yesterday, freedom. I saw freedom actually represents all those other qualities in its highest form. And we've often thought about freedom in terms of bondage, but actually when you look at freedom in terms of freedom is everything, like love, joy, peace, unity. It's all kind of, I see now those words condensed even into the full word of freedom. And I think that's what's happening to us as we get that way. We simplify the mandates, but at the same time we deepen the authority, so we don't lightly just say, oh, I'm just casting love on the world. We know our immense authority as a gate to release that.
Thank you, Jane. In discussing with Bill about a situation at a funeral and how to begin to manifest as a son, and basically where authority lies and all. There was I felt like healing was supposed to be released, but then I started seeing healing as freedom from disease. And if you take freedom actually, that's the positive of a negative situation. I guess sickness being the negative and freedom from it being the positive blueprint.
Free to be, according to Blueprint.
Well, you think how free you are in New Earth when everything is in unity. The freedom is unbelievable because there's no friction of any disunity stopping you doing anything. Whereas everything on old Earth now hits barriers of disunity, and so causes lack of freedom in some concept. So it's constantly pulling the frequency down, whereas the new Earth has that perfect frequency of freedom. Oh, it's just magnificent. And I see that's why it's so significant. If anyone's struggling with Metatron's cube and feeling it all looks too freaky, and it's basically just, if you can get your head around it, it's just the concept of all the tribes coming together and restoring the intention, the original intention of that unity of the tribes. Then it feels more biblical and it feels more scriptural, but then you also see the depth of the need to understand the concept of one united body.
Jane,
So important.
unity of the tribes followed by inheriting new earth.
Sorry, say that again.
Unity of the tribes followed by inheriting new earth.
Yeah.
I kind of feel like it's a good anchor to start, and then the gravity of the bigger picture sets in.
Yes, it's almost though that I think if you struggle with the unity in the one united body, it's like you can't move on to those next dimensions and of understanding, because you're closing a gate to that. So if you're still saying, oh, I just do my own thing with the Godhead, and that goes, that will lead me into intimacy, and it's blocking some of the gates that show the big picture.
That's why we did what we just did. We just lined them up for everybody.
Yeah.
So I'm sensing like being in the Metatron's cube is like being in the womb of the morning. All the 12 come, the 13 come together, and when a woman is pregnant and the womb opens, everything in there comes out. So it's the womb of the morning. When it opens, there's this when you are in the womb, like you are enclosed, you are in water. But when it opens, everything comes out, even the water comes out, and the baby comes out. And you have this big space, the amazing freedom, which you didn't have in the womb. You now have it. And it's a new beginning too, in the new earth. So like Metatron's cube prepares you for new earth and begs you out to experience the fullness and the freedom of new earth.
There you go.
Oh, yes. That is awesome, Patience.
It's on new earth as it is in new heaven.
Yes.
And when the baby's in the womb, what's taking place is cellular regeneration, cells building upon cells after procreation.
Yes.
Until the fullness.
This all started, this whole acceleration began around September with that sense of new birth and new day that we had as a group at that point.
It's almost like a birthing of a foundation too. When Patience said that, I saw the birthing of the foundation because of the 12 of the new earth. But of course we had that 13th one, but that's what just came to me, was the birthing of the foundation of the new earth.
Oh, woo! Gosh, that's amazing.
And Michelle, Simone, when you said that, I heard the big bang, boom.
Oh.
Wow.
Is that the water breaking?
I heard a big bang.
Oh.
Explosion.
Another big bang, yes. Woohoo.
You know what I was just seeing, and forgive me if it's not really in the flow as much. I'm seeing, a sphere, and if you cut it, imagine right through the center, there's a cut. And I was seeing like the earth, and I've been thinking about it for a while, like the earth, and in the center, if it's sliced right across, which is like the equator, and you've got the northern hemisphere and the south hemisphere. Because I was thinking the other day, this is where I'm going, I was thinking about tethering and untethering, and I was thinking about water going down the drain, and I was thinking, it's funny how our earth is that on one side, the water goes down the drain clockwise. The other side of the earth, it goes anti-clockwise. That's correct, isn't it? I'm pretty sure.
It is.
Yeah.
And so I was just thinking about that again, and I saw like the earth, exactly like in the beginning. One sphere, the top sphere going clockwise and spinning just clockwise, the other doing anti-clockwise. Do you know what I'm saying? And I saw it was like wanting to align. Just like when I saw the same sphere again in Metatron's cube, and there was that spinning and spinning both different ways to get that perfect alignment to clog in all the clocks.
Yeah.
And I saw that when we were in New Earth. I've seen it in all these pivotal places, and to me, I've been thinking like, Lord, we're going to get to. Earth is going to match, isn't it? Like one day we won't have that same whether it's a gravitational pull that's doing it, that causes the water to go one way and the other way. I don't know if I'm making any sense. I can see it all, and I can just see again this and the rod, and Elliot, you said about the rod and the key, and I see the rod, and I see the rod going through each sphere, and I keep seeing the rod as the tree of life.
Oh, well, that would make.
And every single sphere, whether it's New Earth, Old Earth, all these different spheres, and just this coming together in alignment. And I don't know if I'm making sense, but
you are.
Perfect sense.
Yeah,
that's what I'm seeing.
alignment's the whole.
One day we're going to, and then I thought, gee, I wonder with New Earth, will it be like that? Well, this is just how I think, when I'm doing things like looking at the water going down the sink, washing dishes. These things come to me. And I kept thinking, is it going, one day, even is this old Earth going to get to a stage, Lord, that it's all going to be aligned? And when it is aligned, all the water will flow the same way down the sink.
Yes.
In the northern and the southern hemisphere. And that's where I started going with this, you see, the other day.
Lee, when you were describing the Earth, when you said a slice out of it, I thought of it like the diagram from you'd get in like 6th grade science. And I had to double check, but it looks very much like the diagram of the gates that we've been talking about. In the crust, the mantle, the outer core, and the inner core, and the way they've got it diagrammed. I don't know the correlation, but there's something there.
And now I've just seen a boiled egg when you cut it down the centre. No, not the, the centre. Depends which way you cut it. And you open it up, and it's like the Earth. You see that core in the middle. Yeah, but I just saw the Earth spinning, like the top half of it spinning one way, and the bottom half spinning the other. And then I saw the same thing with Metatron's cube, and I saw the same thing with New Earth, and so forth.
Well, when I've been in encounters in New Earth, I keep seeing this concept that gravity we can turn it on and we can turn it off. So, and work with it or work without it. So that might all have an impact on, what would happen with the water spinning around and where you are. But also in terms of the rod and the tree of life going through everything, I just see like the Godhead will be in everything. So you'll be conscious, completely God conscious the whole time in anything you're doing. You'll always be conscious of that because they'll be through everything. And everything will speak the glory and sing the glory. And so that's why we'll be so God conscious all the time. It will just be magnificent. It'll be impossible to forget about the Godhead.
You know, I just had a thought. You know how in Revelations 21, it says that, you know, John said he saw a new heaven and a new earth, and the sea was no more. And I just had a thought, instead of there being a sea, that just like in heaven, the river of life flowed through the land, the new earth. And maybe that's why there won't be a sea anymore. It was just a thought.
See, I still see a new tree. I still see the tree of life. I know that us, and I know Jesus, the Godhead is in everything and responds to everything. So that's why we can morph and all those things. But I still see, well, I saw, maybe, I don't know why I saw, but I saw a tree of life. Because I see the tree of life in New Jerusalem. I see it coming down to New Earth. I don't see the tree of life ever going. There might not be a temple. There might not be those things. But I still see a tree of life.
That's very interesting. Well, it probably would be amazing if there were lots of trees and there wasn't one that was a tree of life. So I could see that.
Sorry, I think I got us off track with my water going down the drain.
I don't know about that.
I think it's all just deepening our understanding, because when you grow in Metatron's cube, what you're doing is you're growing in your understanding of eternity, infinity, and new earth, and you have to move into those understandings. You can't restrict them. So I think all this is just deepening that, and deepening the understanding of alignment. Which is very positive.
I think what I'm sensing now is just the importance, though, of staying one with the tree of life.
And I'm also seeing the importance of when we seek to engage every day, is just visually imagining all our gates opening up as one. Not even the number of gates that we have listed on that gate diagram, but way more than that. So many gates we can't even quantify them with words. And that's what I do every day now. I just stand there and I go whoosh. Takes a second, and I say I choose that all my gates are open, so I'm open to the fullest blueprint. There's no hindrance, and I find that conscious choice to do that, it just allows me to engage immediately. It's like the only thing I have to do. And it stops that kind of religious protocol. Oh, well, open my faith gate today, open my first love gate, engage this, engage that. And eventually it can start to become very religious. But this is almost like, I feel like I expand the moment I do that. Like I expand into Metatron's cube. It's like I grow like the Incredible Hulk, how like his whole body just kind of flowed out. That's what I feel, that's what happens. For me, personally, it's a really key thing at the moment.
Jane, it's interesting you said that, because I have been seeing that a body you have prepared for me, and I open all my gates. And I have the idea that when I say that, even my cells, my body cells are open.
Oh, that's good. Your body cells. Yes.
Yes, are open to receiving, to suck in the presence, to suck in whatever he has for me. It's like a sponge, like SpongeBob. A sponge. took him in.
Ah,
And,
yeah.
and when you squeeze me out, all is coming out is him.
That's wonderful. I love that illustration.
That's what a flush is. Like when you have an eye flush or something, you know, whatever comes in, it just, you know, washes out whatever's there, and it's a purifying thing. But thank you for sharing that.
Yeah, yeah. And I can testify, I feel like I'm on the verge of being virtually God conscious all day. In fact, sometimes it's so overwhelming. I'm like, but I've never, ever in my whole Christian walk ever had this where there's barely a second I'm not thinking about something in terms of spiritual concept, whatever I'm doing, and just so conscious of being one with the Godhead. It's the most amazing concept I've never ever experienced before.
It's kind of the point of everything, and that's the mystical way of being, and it's how we were designed to operate.
Amen.
Yeah. Yeah.
Sounds like a pretty good place to rest, if you know what I mean.
Yes. And
Yeah.
so Jane, if you are to give us one key point to achieve that, to get to that, what will you say?
Gosh, I mean, I don't know if it's a combination of doing lots of things, choosing intimacy, choosing responsibility, acting on things, choosing to engage the moment you hear a concept and explore it, living dual realms 24/7 instead of, you know, I have my quiet time and then I go to work, that kind of thinking. And that's what I've just, very early on, I just had this whole concept of this entangling, spinning thing. And so everything was, I was always spinning and entangling, and it seemed to create this immense hunger that there was nothing I could do but embrace these mysteries. There was nothing else that gave me a fraction of the satisfaction compared to this pursuing my final destiny. So, and then it seemed to flow. It was as if once you got a few of these along going and doing the body soul spirit alignment thing, I do that. Actually, that's one thing I feel the need to do all the time, which I suppose in the end might get religious, but at the moment it's not for me. It's really meaningful, is this alignment. It all seemed to compound. It's as if if you do multiple things, they all compound. Then you get this exponential effect where you're in God consciousness and not sin consciousness. And maybe you could even define it as tethering.
When you were saying that, you know, that solid diamond star image, I just saw us like that. I could see that. I could see you in that form. And then by, you know, aligning the body, soul, spirit, opening all the gates to open up all the frequencies. I just saw that. That's what I saw again, which is really Metatron's cube.
Yeah,
it's almost, wow, it's almost like we are kind of an image of that somehow.
Yeah. And I think it's important too, and patients, perhaps this will also assist, is the fact that separation is an illusion, and that this is, you know, what Jane is starting to experience is she's awakening to the truth that has always been, that she is in God. She does live and move and have our being, as we all do, and that this is the baseline fact of our existence. And we've been so turned around by our outer, by things flowing from the outside in rather than the inside out, which is these gates, right? That it's confused us and deceived us. But the fact is, this is we are in Christ, and he is in us on a physical level as well as a spiritual level, and that is the truth. And those truths growing within us by all these various spiritual practices are our intent to apprehend and walk in those. That's kind of really the point of it all, and all of that brings us, as Jane says, into our fullness of destiny. It's the intimacy is the foundation, but it's not the end, and it's the foundation from which we can grow into the limitlessness of everything we're called into.
And the more we go into these realms, like I just, consciously did that. I just sat here and I said what Janie just said. I just said it. And I did do that earlier about putting my body, soul, and spirit under. But as soon as I just really said, open all my gates and engaged that, straight away, that flow was there. Straight away. All that I had sensed from being on New Earth, which is, all the attributes of Father, all of that. I just straight away felt that, the flowing of that.
Ooh.
So that we're, and it's such an importance to bring everybody up into that place, because, and whatever's beyond, if there's a beyond of all of that, so what I'm trying to say, the furthest place we go is what we're flowing from and in and through. So people that are, have been only in lower places, who are in the body, just I can see the importance of bringing them up to flow in the total freedom of the fullness.
Woo-hoo.
Amen.
And I just, as soon as I said that, I saw gates just going pop, 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 just because of flowing in the freedom of that.
Yeah.
Just as we're moving, and as Quinn said, moving in him and having our being, just pop, 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 just
Wow.
just opening, before us, before we needed, there's a door there, even before any of that. Just by just saying, yeah, I'm opening up my gates and just, yeah, consciously, yeah, yes. That's it, just yes.
Wow.
And it was
That
a boom,
just shows you the acceleration, isn't it? If we move away from having to academically define gates and, deal with each one, and if we move just to a spiritual concept of, just opening them, not defining them, what acceleration we can have. And it's probably just the whole thing of saying, I choose no self-government. I choose total God's government. It's probably what we're doing as well.
Uh-huh.
Yes. And the other thing that comes to me also is I get to the place where I have the consciousness that he is in my heart. That's intimacy. And his government is on my shoulders. So the two mingle together. He is in my heart and his government is on my shoulders. It's like you can't do without the other.
Yeah, that's wonderful.
Where we all started with this about putting power, electricity, generation, where we started. When you were saying that about making the decision to open all gates at once, I saw like a main breaker of a house. There are many breakers down in the control panel, but then there's the one big main breaker.
Oh, yes.
Something about flip the switch.
There it is.
Yes.
That's the link.
That's our governmental act.
Yeah. Hey, so
I just saw that my electricity box outside, and it's got all these little switches, and when you pull on and you go on with the main one, then all the other ones, if they need to be on and whatever, they just go pop 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 pop.
Yeah, yeah.
Just like the doors that I just heard went pop 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 pop.
Yeah.
I'd gotten a mandate about 2 weeks ago, right before we did a chat ascension, and it was about it was a work order to restore the power to the house, like you would like the power company gets a work order. Somebody goes in and flips the main breaker, and then the power goes to the house. But it's done from the plant. It's not done necessarily at the house. It's like at the main power generating station.
Wow.
Wow.
And then the power goes to the house. Oh, shahata. It goes individually once you turn it on. And then when you were talking earlier with the gates, I was also seeing it like locks in a river. And in order for the river to flow, each lock has, they all need to be open. And which is very similar to the flow of power from the main power station. Flip that switch, and then it goes out boom, to all the houses at the same time.
Courtney, I'm glad you said that, because that's what I was seeing, was all the locks in a river, just boom, 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 opening for the flow. And it goes to show how, even with the gates, the 5 physical, in our body, blah, 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 how we've allowed that to be our limit.
Yeah.
And this is just a huge thing right here, what you were saying, Jane, just all of them open, known, unknown to us, but even the gates, it's amazing what all we have allowed to limit us. And we are limitless.
Yeah.
And so when Lee was saying, when she did that, I just did it as well. And it's amazing just the freedom of all of that. Not even realizing I was limited in just acknowledging certain gates, because there's so many more.
Shall we do it for the ecclesia?
Yes, I think we should, Elliot, do it as ecclesia and open them all.
And it means that even when we stand there and say we open all our gates, we even open the Metatron gates that we don't know of.
Yes.
Every everlasting gate. Every everlasting gate is open. When we say that, wow. Thank you, Jesus.
It's infinity.
We are invincible.
Yeah. We're thinking way too small.
Hallelujah.
We think big.
That's it.
I'm seeing that what I used to sense in myself as operating in faith, that sense of operating in faith, I'm seeing that is desire. It's just desire.
Yes. And the just shall live by faith. We can jump out there, and we will not fall and break into pieces, because there's no gravity.
Because I just by desire thought, yes, I'm opening all my gates.
Yeah, and it has to be desire to stop it being religious. The moment it's not desire, it becomes religion. I think we're just being shown a massive way to help accelerate newbies as well.
Yes.
And I'm not sure if we should be telling newbies anymore, work through each individual gate. And I think eventually it becomes very overwhelming, and they can just be consumed with that concept alone, let alone all the other concepts they've got to grasp.
Yes.
But if all we have to say just open all the gates, it's so much easier for them to understand.
And you can join your faith with theirs to help them to be able to open them all at one shot.
Well, yeah, but then it's done.
Yep.
Shall we do it corporately?
Yes,
Yes.
let's.
All
I have
right.
to go soon.
Okay, so as an ecclesia, Father, we choose to open all of our gates.
Yes.
Every last one of them.
Yes, Lord.
Yes.
Known and unknown gates. Known and unknown gates.
You feel that burn? That is serious.
Woo! Woo!
Oh, everlasting gates. Hallelujah.
Feel that power supply. Woo!
Lift up your heads, all ye gates.
Woo! Full
Be
expansion.
lifted up, be everlasting doors. Hallelujah.
Woo! Woo!
There's
King of
such a
glory.
such a rush. Woo!
Come in,
Woo!
come in, come in.
Hallelujah. Thank you, Lord.
Hallelujah.
Embrace the expansion. Embrace it.
Yes.
Woo, and
Feel the
wind.
freedom.
No more limits.
There's such a wind.
A breaker allows the circuit to be completed. That's what it does. So when a breaker is closed, it stops the flow. When you push that big main breaker up into in the on position, it allows the circuit to be completed.
Woo! That's it. Complete. Complete's the big word. Wow, I'm getting a real sense that might be the new word to release from everlasting as well. Everlasting completion.
Hallelujah.
Woo! I think that
Everlasting.
might be the theme of everything we've done today as well, is bringing forth that full completion.
Full circle.
Yeah.
Such abundancy.
A figure 8 race, it's actually in the infinity symbol, and when you do one lap, you've completed the full circuit.
Woo!
Do we feel complete?
Wow, yes.
Okay.
We've reached completion.
The full completion?
Complete.
Ooh.
Okay.